Hello everybody, my name is Aud and welcome back to the Aud Narrations channel. Today we're reading a story about a guy whose wife had a drunken fling after a couple months of an emotional affair and now claimed to regret it deeply and is literally begging me to give her another chance. I'm seeking advice and sharing of experiences. As always, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, hit the subscribe button. I shouldn't need to explain why. Right, let's make a start. My wife and I have always had ups and downs, but the ups have always been really good. As time passed, roughly 9 years together, we found ourselves sinking into routine and began to drift apart emotionally and romantically. We rarely spent time together or texted one another, and basically were just roommates taking care of a couple kids together. She ended up having an emotional affair with another man, had a drunken one-time fling with him, and now claims it to be the worst mistake of her life and is begging me to give her another chance. Just right off the bat there, if it was an emotional affair and then one drunken fling, it's not an emotional affair. It's gone to physical as well. It's emotional and physical, and I really hope I'm wrong, but odds are there's probably more you haven't heard. She says she felt unloved, like we were on autopilot. We both had been privately thinking about separating, and then this happened and it deeply affected both of us. We're both so torn up about it that you wouldn't think we'd hardly spent a romantic moment together in the past however many years, and she desperately wants me to give her another chance. This happened 3 months ago, and we've been living together since then, and she does seem to be making a sincere effort to reconcile. I'm considering giving her another chance, but I want some advice and to hear the experiences of others outside of my friend pool echo chamber. Smart guy. Open to suggestions for books, articles, methods, or whatever. Just seeking input. I can elaborate on details in the comments and maybe add edits later, but I'm trying to keep this from being too big a wall of text. Fair. Alrighty, let's take a look at the comments. Someone left a comment saying, suggest getting a post-marital prenup. Postnup, I think they're called. That way, if anything happens again, you won't be left in a lurch. If she's truly sincere about repairing your marriage, she should be willing to sign. Check it out. OP replied saying, frankly, I didn't even know that was a thing. I will be looking into this. Someone replied to OP saying, it's called a post-nuptial agreement with a fidelity clause. You'll need to speak to a lawyer for this. I suggest you discuss divorce/custody and a post-nuptial agreement at the same time and get as much information as possible. Your wayward spouse would have to agree to have their own lawyer for the post-nuptial. If done right, she could lose financially if she ever cheats or even contacts her affair partner again. It's a good trap to set. Someone else left a comment saying, it wasn't just a drunken one-night stand. She was having an emotional affair with that guy for quite some time. Every message she sent him, every second of attention she gave him and received from him led to that one-night stand. She's claiming it to be the worst mistake of her life. However, it was all her actions. She had every chance to stop the emotional affair, every chance to not meet up with the guy, and every opportunity to take a step back before doing the deed. She took a series of conscious decisions over the course of a long time to reach this situation. Don't dilute it by labeling it as a mistake. They quote, she says she felt unloved, like we were on autopilot. We both had been privately thinking about separating. And they write, did she ever communicate this with you, that she was not feeling loved at all? The moment to work on your marriage was before all of this. Trust me, leaving is the best option, as your marriage was already in a bad phase, and then she cheated. You may try to work on it, but her actions will always haunt you, and you won't be able to get the trust back as you had in her before she cheated. OP quoted the comment saying, did she ever communicate this with you, that she was not feeling loved at all? And OP writes, frankly, yes. Big L on my part. That's strong of you to admit. I'm willing to accept the lingering pain and the haunting doubts if we can work on our marriage and make things right again. Honestly, what I'm most afraid of is that it'll happen again years later, even if we do everything perfectly right and fix our marriage and things are better than ever before. I'm terrified it would just happen again. To be honest, OP, that is what the commenter's talking about. It's the betrayal of trust. It's the, oh, they're slightly late tonight. I wonder what they're doing, and the thought will pop into your head. It's kind of a bit like a ghost. You can't really get rid of it once it's haunting you. It just keeps popping back up when you sort of least expect it. Someone replied to OP, quoting, honestly, what I'm most afraid of is that it'll happen again years later, even if we do everything perfectly right and fix our marriage, and things are better than ever before. I'm terrified it would just happen again. And they write, unfortunately, many stories and or experiences, I said many, not all, won't bring you good news in the long run. Whatever you decide is up to you. Personally, I'm not a fan of reconciliation after infidelity. But what is certain is that if your wife in the future ever feels, whether the truth or not, the same way she did back then, not feeling loved, etc., she already knows that she got away with it once. The hardest thing to fight against is how someone feels and how they deal with that. And when it comes to doing something that is wrong, usually the first time is the hardest, because after that it gets easier. Yeah, guilt response decreases. Someone replied to the original comment here, saying, "No marriage issues are an excuse for cheating. It would help if you drilled this into both of your heads. You now know that in stress, or merely a lack of thrill, she's willing to beat you with the worst kind of emotional abuse there is. It takes most of us years to recover from that abuse. It also takes an incredible level of dedication to become self-aware and self-disciplined, to recognize the early stages of cheating, and to never repeat those mistakes. Many cheaters cannot achieve that. This marriage is over. Is your wife giving you the tremendous life-altering level of remorse, respect, and energy your next relationship would require? Rebuilding a new marriage from the ashes of the last one is not a simple endeavor." Completely agree. Someone replied to the original comment again, saying, "It will happen again, and while she's remorseful now, she won't be in the future. The blame will fall entirely on you as she's framing her cheating now. She claims she felt unloved. Yeah, that very well may be true, but it's not in any way an acceptable reason to cheat on your family. I say family because she cheated on your kids too. Do they not love her too? There is no excuse for cheating. If it was that bad, she should have gotten a divorce and moved on with whoever she wanted. Your wife has shown no accountability. She just desperately doesn't want to rock the stable boat that she's on, or have to see her kids every other week. What I would do in your situation is ask her to move out and stay with friends or family for a while. Tell her you need time to think about whether you still want to be with a woman who could cheat on her family. For this time apart, set things up as if you were divorced, set up a schedule for your kids, etc., separate your finances, and force her to support herself. I'd also go no contact for a few weeks as to let the gravity of her actions sink in. Observe her behavior and actions very closely during this period, because if she's worth reconciling with, it'll all become apparent to you during this time. Has she cut off her affair partner? Was it a co-worker? Has she offered to quit her job? She has to put the work in, not you. Words amount to nothing but platitudes. I think I would probably go one step further than that as well, which is that you can't demand these things. You can suggest them, but if you demand it and she does it, it's not something that she's done willingly. In fact, if anything, she'll kind of resent you more for demanding these things. Like, if she hasn't already voluntarily cut off the affair partner, don't waste your fucking time. And if you have to demand it and force it and then monitor it, I don't need to explain. But P replied saying, "I'm in the same boat, man. I'm debating on if I want to work it out or just move on." Someone replied, asking, "Do you feel like there's anything worth saving? That's where I am right now. I feel like there is. I want to give her another. I'm just so hurt and worried it can happen again. Obviously, we need to make big changes in our relationship, but I'm confident we could do it, and I'm confident we would be great again together. I'm just scared of being hurt again." Someone else replied to OP saying, "Then how do you protect yourself? I'm reconciled with my wife who cheated worse than yours from the sound of it. Do I trust her like I did before? Hell no. If I ever got a hint of her cheating, I would just leave with my contingency plan and file for a divorce, and then figure out things from there. It was how I made myself feel safe." Yeah, exactly that. I've told my wife about the contingency plan, and she cries when she hears about it. She even tried to dismantle it a while ago. Then I almost put it into effect when I found out and told her she can't control me, like she did with the lies during the affair. I have my own back now, and she knows it. But more so, I know it. So if you do go into reconciliation, I would recommend you build yourself an out. She can get help, and it will really encourage her to see you deserve to leave over this affair. That forgiving is going to be really tough on you, and she's getting shown the greatest act of love, and if she ever discredits it, you'll find your way out. This will take away from the fear that she'll cheat again. The other thing I had to do was just chat with some other women about what it would be like to start dating again, so I wasn't afraid to start over. Then staying was my choice, not the default choice. I think that really helped my wife get on board when I said I wanted to know I chose to stay over stayed because I was afraid I would be alone. Then you can choose to stay and really commit to that choice. I think that's a very fair way of looking at it, actually. There are other things you can do. She needs to get individual therapy before you do couples therapy to identify how she justified each step she took out of the marriage. It wasn't you pushing her away, she made those decisions. If it was that bad, she could have just left the marriage. So she needs to remember and tell you what she told herself, that let her get closer and closer to this guy. After that, you can go to couples counseling, where you talk about better communication and resolving fights without pulling out entirely of the marriage. Someone replied to this saying, "I can't believe you stayed with this person after reading that second paragraph. Obviously she learned nothing." The person replied saying, "She's changed a lot. I'm not surprised I stayed with her through it all. I like people to get at least a second chance. Having been a fighter for a little while who hurt people for money in the armed forces, it is the only way I can see myself deserving the peace and prosperity I have in my life. There is a bit of resentment that I still hold on to, which is that she didn't realize what she had until it was almost gone. We've talked about it in and out of counseling. She has to own that she doesn't love me as much as I love her. She tries to show me as much as she can that she cherishes that love. I can either push her away and get angry or let it in. One of those makes me feel better, and the other hurts me, but promises a chance to do this again with someone who doesn't know how amazing I am. So I chose. I'll always miss the person I used to be and the type of love I had for her. I would say the best thing I ever did was take a tally of the things you chose in the day and the things you didn't, and then write down what you see happening if you chose something else. And then think about it, if you would be happier or less happy making the other choice. And then fast forward from that choice about a year and think, if you looked back, which choice would be the one you would make? That is what you chose. Sure, a new wife could be prettier, younger, have more crazy sex with me, and bring more resources to the marriage. Would that mean she values me as much as my wife, who knows what life will be if I leave and values me for being around, even though it makes her sad to see the damage she's caused? Probably not. I would have to chase her around and show her and how much I love her. It's going to cost me and it'll probably hurt me again. Choosing to love those that have hurt you and put down the idea of fair is the most adult thing you can ever do. Someone else left a comment saying, "I was asked to give another chance after a drunken fling, and then several months later she sought him out again because I was mad at you. And then we split, and then she kept sleeping with me. Classic trauma bonding. And then, just as I was about to ask her to marry me again, she got drunk again and slept with someone new. I changed, I guess. I wanted to see more of the world, I guess. Well, good luck." Someone else left a comment saying, "You can reconcile, but do better going forward, her and you, but especially her. But I'd like you to focus on the foundation of your relationship, your agreements together, especially your unwritten and unspoken agreements, as well as your sacred vows, assuming there is something like that, even if not religious for you. To sum it up for you, you dropped the ball and stopped doing some things that she wanted from you. You were too oblivious and caught up in the day-to-day, which had changed considerably from your early days, where you both had much more free time to spend on each other romantically. Kids, growing careers, and let's agree to this also, you had won each other over. You had her and she had you. The commitment was done, the contract was signed, and the ink was on the bottom line, and you could both take each other for granted. Or not, but not in a non-loving way, but in the oblivious way that you did. And very likely she did too, to you, but you would have to fill in the blanks. My assumption would be that she was not thinking of cheating on you, but it fell in her lap, and it felt good, so she went with it, step by step, not initially thinking it was cheating, and then thought it was a little cheating, and then she was all in on the cheating. Continuing the assumption, she fell out of love with you, and she fell in love with the affair partner. She was confused on both aspects of that, so it wasn't a complete switch to him away from you, but rather she was thinking about it, and at least how you were falling down, but really, that came too late to fix the atomic bomb of infidelity. I think you think wrongly if you look at the sex fling. The problem in her infidelity is the emotional boundary to get to the sexual fling. Yeah, it's the repeated boundary violations. Bottom line, what did you and her expect in a marriage with kids? Perhaps you never talked about it. My wife and I didn't. I don't personally know anyone who talked about it as we were getting married. I, and others I know, assumed that if there were problems, we would talk it over, not cheat. I didn't say that to my wife, and she didn't say that to me, ever. But that's what we both thought, finally talking about it after she cheated. We both agreed that we would always love each other, stay married forever, have kids, live happily enough forever after, as problems arose. We would communicate to each other and make whatever needed to be done to do our best, knowing that we loved each other. And I think this is basically all the people I know personally, how they felt as they got married, knowing full well that about half of marriages end in divorce, but knowing that we were special, that we would never divorce like those half. I think you have to go back to the foundation and agree what it is, talking to your wife about what those things are. You will have problems again, many of them. We all will. That is life. The paint in the kitchen will fade and get dirty. Should we talk it over and clean the walls? Repaint? If so, what colour? Or should one of us just set it on fire because the paint is fading and dirty? Even if we told our spouse that the paint is fading and dirty and our spouse ignored it. A few notes here. Number 1. Anything before 6 months is premature to really know. It's the initial trauma still in both your heads. Doing everything to make sure you can save this is if you want. Not really deciding if you want to save it, just making sure that saving it is a possibility if you should want it. It's like a person who's had a heart attack and is told to change your habits. It's easy for the first 6 months. As time passes and the emergency fades, it gets much more difficult. And many choose the old luxurious eating and drinking lifestyle than the more austere one. Perhaps not the perfect analogy, but good enough for you to understand where you stand in this lifelong process. No, I think it's actually a very apt one. Number 2. Perhaps you were the real culprit in the marriage starting to fail. Perhaps you were the one who ignored your spouse's needs, and she was still working much harder than you until the affair fell in her lap. The problem is, the infidelity is such an atomic bomb issue that your relatively minor faults are now second to her wrongdoing to you. You were careless and insensitive, she broke a foundational vow between you. Your fault came first, and her fault needs to be addressed first, even though you had neglected the house. She is the one who set the house on fire. Be careful about therapists who try and equalize your faults, or to make sure you agree with the therapist's take on it before you commit to that therapist. Not every therapist approaches infidelity the same way, and as far as I can see, many therapists wind up hurting the marriage after infidelity rather than helping it. Just be careful who you choose. None is better than a bad one. Number 3. Book for an Emotional Affair. Not Just Friends by Shirley Glass. You should both read it. Number 4. Pay attention to her actions, not her words. The words are easy. Talk is cheap, they say. The actions are much more difficult to fake. We can't see inside another person's head, their intentions and motivations. All we can do is look at their words and actions. And actions give you a much more insight into them. Number 5. Emotional affairs turning into sex happens even when the other spouse is devoted and providing a lot of attention to the cheater. There is no way a new love can be more intense than the old love. The brand new car is exciting and intense, not the old reliable car. It's very possible that she would have cheated even if you had been doing everything possible. Very likely, her cheating isn't only due to your inattentiveness. Perhaps that was the majority reason, perhaps not, but very likely there was the new feeling, the butterflies in the belly, which was part of it. Do they call it limerence? I think it might be called limerence. But yeah, 100%. OP, it's a really tricky situation. I think I agree with all the comments written here, pretty much, about taking it slow, getting that out plan, the backup plan, getting her to go to therapy to try and address whatever the issue is behind and also help her process what happened as well. And then once that's sort of, it's not really done, but once it's communicated to you, or that you're happy with it, or she understands what she did, then marriage counseling, I think, is probably the next best move. But I completely agree with this final comment that you need to pick a good one. But yeah, tricky. So, what do you think OP should do? What would you do in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss the latest upload. Alrighty, thank you very much for listening, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.